Henry never expected a parade or even a cake. He just wanted peace, a quiet birthday dinner, a small moment of acknowledgement from the people he'd spent his life building for. But instead, he got something else, a public execution of his dignity. They were seated around the table in the dining room. Lisa had ordered overpriced takeout and poured glasses of wine for everyone but him. Henry sat at the far end sipping flat soda, still wearing the work pants stained with the afternoon's repairs. He didn't mind the stains. They were honest. They told the story of a man who worked with his hands, who showed up every day, tired but present. Then, without warning, the words cut through the room like a blade. "You fix toilets? That makes you a man?" His daughter Madison giggled as her friends gasped, then laughed with her. They looked at Henry like he was a janitor who'd wandered into the wrong party, a nobody. Henry blinked. He had taught her to ride a bike. He had held her when she broke her arm in second grade. He had stayed up all night during her flu. But now she was ashamed he even existed. Lisa smirked, raising her wine glass. "You were always just temporary." No one defended him, not even Lisa, who once whispered forever through tears on their wedding night. The room stayed still. Except for Henry's heartbeat. It sounded like the ticking of a bomb he didn't even know he was sitting on. No one defended him, not Lisa, not Madison, not even one awkward cough from the guests. The silence said everything. It was permission to humiliate him, permission to treat him like furniture they never wanted. Henry looked around the room, the lights he'd installed himself, the wooden floors he refinished after long shifts. The dining table he built with his own hands the year Madison turned 10. Every inch of this house had his sweat soaked into it, and yet in this moment, he felt like a stranger inside a museum of someone else's life. No tears fell, there was no shouting, because what was the point? The man who spent his life fixing leaks couldn't patch this one, not when the damage came from within. Henry stood up, calm, steady. He didn't slam the chair, he didn't raise his voice. He just walked upstairs, packed one bag, one pair of jeans, one old t-shirt, a shaving kit, and his dignity, what little of it still clung to his spine. Then he came back down. They were still laughing. Lisa was pouring more wine. Madison was scrolling on her phone like nothing had happened. He walked past them. No goodbyes, no looks back. And as the front door clicked shut behind him, it wasn't heartbreak he felt. It was peace, a dark, unfamiliar kind of peace. The kind that only comes after you've lost everything. Henry didn't drive far, just far enough to disappear. He pulled into the edge of a city park, the kind that's more shadows than light after 10 p.m. He turned off the engine and just sat there, hands on the wheel, eyes unfocused, heart torn between rage and something far heavier, grief. He had no words, no plan, just a silence so deep it roared in his ears. Was he supposed to cry, scream, punch the dashboard? He did none of that. Instead, he let his mind go blank. The kind of blank that comes after the world has slapped you so hard, even your thoughts scatter. And then his phone lit up. Once. Then again. Then again. It buzzed like a wounded animal fighting for breath. 29 missed calls. Madison. Lisa. Unknown numbers. Even one from Derek. Henry stared at the screen, expressionless. A part of him wanted to answer. To yell. To demand, why now? But instead, he did something they weren't expecting. He powered the phone off, tossed it into the glove compartment, and leaned his head back against the seat. The world could wait. He needed to remember how to breathe first. The next morning, Henry found himself at a place he hadn't been in years, a run-down diner on the edge of the old neighborhood. Same scratched-up counter, same old waitress with the tired smile, same bitter coffee. Bottomless, refillable, unforgiving. He slid into the corner booth alone. No phone, no family photos. Just him and a cracked ceramic mug filled with liquid darker than his thoughts. He stared out the window. The city moved on without him, like it always had. And in that silence, memories crept in uninvited but relentless. He remembered Lisa in her bookstore apron before the designer heels. How he promised her, "Give me 10 years and you'll never have to lift a finger again." She smiled then, said, "Just don't forget who was there when you had nothing." He didn't. He remembered working 2 jobs, saving every penny, taking night classes to get licensed, building his plumbing business from a rusted-out van, paying off her car, buying the house, taking Madison to every parent-teacher conference, even when Lisa didn't bother. All of it. Every ounce of effort. Every drop of sweat. For what? I wasn't loved. I was used. The words hit him like a punch to the gut, not because they were dramatic, but because they were true. He had been a tool, a wallet, a waller, a driver, a fixer, a buffer for everyone else's chaos. And now that they no longer needed fixing, they threw him away. Henry didn't want revenge, at least not at first. What he wanted was clarity, to understand how the hell the life he built with his bare hands had become a stage for his own public humiliation. So he did what any man with a mind for fixing systems would do. He started investigating. But this time it wasn't a clogged pipe. It was a man named Derek. Henry didn't Google him. He didn't scroll through social media. No, he went further. He hired Yusef, former law enforcement, now a private investigator with a reputation for discretion and results. People didn't hire Yusef to find missing cats. They hired him when they wanted to uncover the rot behind clean facades. "I don't want drama," Henry said when they met. "I want truth, quietly, thoroughly." Yusef just nodded and replied, "Then you came to the right guy." The plan was simple. Expose Derek, his lies, his debts, his dirt, everything that Lisa and Madison didn't want to see. Henry wasn't going to yell, confront, or beg for dignity. He'd tried that in silence. Now he would dismantle them, piece by piece, quietly, and they wouldn't even know it was him, not until it was too late. Yusef didn't waste time. 3 days, that's all it took. 3 days, and Henry had more truth than he knew what to do with. The report came thick, documents, receipts, photos, call logs. And the first line read like a dagger, "Derek is drowning in debt." Restaurant number 1 was behind on rent. Restaurant number 2 was under audit for tax discrepancies. Restaurant number 3 built on rezoned land, technically illegal. There were lawsuits, back payments, fake investors. And 2 employees who had filed harassment complaints against Derek quietly buried under NDAs. Worse, Lisa's name was on 2 of the business accounts, joint signatory, legal liability. Henry didn't react, didn't laugh, didn't cheer. He just took notes, because this wasn't about emotion anymore. It was about leverage. And Madison, she had no idea she was helping him. Her TikToks, full of smug grins and luxury shopping bags, were unintentionally documenting financial fraud in real time. Out with Mom and Dee. New dad treats us like royalty. Dinner at the Four Seasons thanks to Daddy Derek. The best part? Every swipe of the card was still linked to Henry's name. He had frozen the accounts, then reactivated them briefly, just long enough for them to get comfortable. Then he shut it all down. No confrontation, no warning. And that right there was the beginning of the end. Henry didn't believe in rage. Not anymore. He believed in precision. He logged into the account one evening just before sunset. 4 credit cards, 3 bank accounts, all still active, all still linked to his name. He hovered over the freeze button, then paused. No, not yet. Let them get comfortable first. For the next few days, Lisa and Derek spent like royalty. Madison kept posting hauls and designer bags and overpriced meals. The comments were full of envy. They looked untouchable, and that was exactly what Henry wanted. He watched it all like a conductor before the final note. Then, on a Friday night, he hit disable on everything. At 7:18 p.m., just as their waiter at the luxury steakhouse was bringing out dessert. 4 declined cards, confused looks, embarrassed whispers. Lisa turned pale. Derek pulled out his phone. The manager stepped in. "I'm sorry, sir. None of these are working." "Do you have another form of payment?" They didn't, because Henry had made sure they wouldn't. The waiter snapped a photo while they argued. It ended up on Yelp. Henry might have had something to do with that. The caption, "Couple throws tantrum after cards decline. Woman yells, 'My husband will pay.' Spoiler, he didn't." Henry didn't smile, but his silence, that was satisfaction. It started as a whisper, a single photo, posted on Yelp by a concerned diner. Derek mid-shout. Lisa, arms flailing. A waiter standing awkwardly with a bill in his hand. The caption, "Entitled couple loses it after all their cards decline. Absolutely wild scene." It didn't go viral, not yet, but it made the rounds. Food bloggers, local Reddit threads, whispers turned to murmurs, murmurs turned to questions. And then came the real explosion. The IRS received an anonymous tip. With it, a neat little packet, suspicious expense reports, business tax evasion, photos of Derek's illegally built restaurant, Lisa's name on financial statements, all neatly tied together, all pointing toward a couple who lived large and lied even larger. Then came the press, not tabloids, actual journalists. High-profile restaurateur under federal investigation for tax fraud. Domestic partner Lisa Caldwell also named in early reports as potential co-conspirator. Henry didn't need to say a word. The world was speaking for him now. Lisa's workplace suspended her pending legal clarification. Derek's investors began pulling out. Madison's brand inquiries dried up overnight. And all the while, Henry sat in his cabin, reading, sipping coffee, and letting the fire burn itself out. It dropped without warning. No trailer, no promotion, just a sudden upload on a nondescript YouTube channel with 213 subscribers. Title, "Cheating Wife Humiliates Husband, but He Gets the Last Laugh." Thumbnail, Lisa raising her wine glass. Henry looking down, Madison smirking in the background, Derek blurred but clearly there. Within hours, it exploded, 500,000 views, then 1 million, comments flooding in by the thousands. Why? Because it wasn't just a video, it was a narrative, told with precision, emotion, and receipts. The first clip, Henry sitting quietly at his own birthday dinner. Then Madison's voice, "You fix toilets? That makes you a man?" The table laughs. Next clip, Lisa introducing Derek. "He owns 3 restaurants. You were always just temporary." Then a hard cut. Screenshots, court documents, business filings, photos of Derek shouting at the restaurant, Lisa screaming at the bank. And finally, a text overlay. They thought he was disposable, but he was documenting everything. The comments, brutal, unfiltered, unforgiving. That daughter is just as heartless as her mom. He played the long game and won. I've never rooted for someone this hard in my life. It was no longer just Henry's story. It was the internet's rally cry. A masterclass in silent revenge. And Lisa, she watched it alone, over and over, each frame cutting deeper than the last. The fallout wasn't loud. It didn't come with sirens or arrests. It came in waves, quiet, relentless, unforgiving. Lisa was the first to feel it. The HR department called her in for a brief meeting. By the time she stepped out, her access card was deactivated. Pending investigation, they said. But the eyes of her coworkers, they already spoke the verdict. Her inbox dried up. No more invites, no more brunches. Her girls' group chat went silent. Even her closest friends unfollowed her overnight. She tried reaching out. "It's just a misunderstanding." But no one replied. Then came Madison's turn. She posted a TikTok crying, claiming she didn't mean it, that it was just a joke, that people didn't see the whole story. The internet didn't care. You're a bully. How do you humiliate your dad like that? You deserve every tear. Her followers dropped. Brand deals vanished. She was 17, but the world didn't care, because pain has a way of making people ruthless. And Derek disappeared. No public statements, no explanations, just silence. He left Lisa with frozen assets, a ruined name, and one voicemail that simply said, "This isn't what I signed up for." Just like that, they were all alone. And Henry, he didn't lift a finger. He just let them destroy themselves with the tools they once used against him. Henry didn't knock. He didn't need to. He still had a key. The house was silent, empty in a way sound couldn't fill. He stepped inside the same doorway where 1 year ago he had been laughed out of his own birthday. Now, no one laughed. Lisa sat on the edge of the couch, or what was left of it, her eyes hollow, her face sunken. The wine glasses were gone, the designer bags nowhere in sight. She looked up, her breath caught in her throat. "You?" Henry didn't respond. He didn't look angry. He didn't look sad. He looked finished. He walked in, calm as snowfall, and set 2 items on the coffee table. The first, a small black velvet box. Inside, the wedding ring she had thrown into the kitchen sink that night. He had retrieved it, quietly, before the movers came. The second, a folded check, made out to Lisa Caldwell. Amount, $1. Lisa blinked, confused. She picked it up, staring. "What is this?" Henry's voice was steady, unshaken. "It's your share, after debts, taxes, and court settlements." She opened her mouth to argue, to plead, to explain, but he was already turning. And just before he closed the door behind him, he said without looking back, "You once said I was temporary. Now you're the one left behind." And then he was gone. He didn't wait for her to cry, didn't stay to hear excuses, didn't need closure. Henry turned, one hand still resting on the doorknob, the other tucked in his coat pocket. He didn't look back. And in a voice calm enough to chill the room, he left her with just one sentence, a sentence that would echo for the rest of her life. "You once said I was temporary. Now you're the one left behind." No slamming door, no final glare, just the soft click of a life finally walking away. And Lisa, she sat there frozen, still holding the $1 check, still staring at the ring. In that moment, she realized something far worse than being yelled at. She wasn't feared. She wasn't hated. She was irrelevant. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't even particularly modern. But to Henry, the small lakeside cabin was more than a home. It was a choice, a declaration, a sanctuary. Each morning he brewed his own coffee. No one screamed. No one mocked his hands. No one belittled the man who fixed things for a living. The lake didn't care what he did for work. The trees didn't roll their eyes at his silence. The wind never whispered that he wasn't good enough. And for the first time in years, Henry believed it too. He got hired by a reputable construction firm, not because of charm, not because of connections, because of his reputation, his hands, his grit, the same hands they once laughed at, calloused, rough, honest. They were still cracked at the knuckles, but they no longer shook from stress. Henley worked, came home, ate dinner, watching the lake turn to gold at sunset. He no longer needed validation, not from Lisa, not from Madison, not from anyone, because peace doesn't come from applause. It comes from walking away from noise and never looking back. The letter came in spring, no return address, just a plain envelope with shaky handwriting. Inside, a folded piece of lined paper, blue ink, smudged, tears maybe. It read, "I was young and stupid. I miss you, Dad. I didn't mean what I said. I just wanted to fit in. You didn't deserve any of it." Henry read it once, then again. He didn't cry. He didn't smile. He just folded the letter, placed it inside the bottom drawer of his desk under a stack of quiet things, old keys, tools, faded photos, things that didn't demand attention anymore. He didn't write back, not out of anger, not out of pride, but because he didn't live in the noise anymore, because some peace is too expensive to trade back. Forgiveness doesn't always come with a response. Sometimes it comes with a pause and a decision to move forward anyway, and Henry had already moved forward, far, far forward. Peace doesn't come from proving your worth. It comes from knowing it and walking away when it's no longer honored. In life, we're taught to fight for recognition, to scream back when we're disrespected. But sometimes the strongest thing you can do is to be silent, to walk away, to rebuild. Henry didn't need revenge. He didn't need to be right. He just needed to be free. And that's what he chose. This story reminds us that you're not what others say you are. Your silence doesn't make you weak. It makes you unshakable. And real healing starts when you stop looking back. So if someone ever tried to define your worth for you, let this be your quiet reminder. You are so much more. If this story spoke to you, if you've ever been pushed aside, silenced, or underestimated, leave us a comment. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And hit subscribe to Athena Stories, because here, every betrayal finds its voice, and every broken piece gets a chance to be whole again.